Hey guys, happy Friday. Kelly Walters here, and welcome to the Heat Press for Profit podcast. Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen and join in on conversations. If you are watching with us live from Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn, make sure you shout out who you are, where you are, tuning in from, and of course, you guys know I love to know your business name. So this podcast is designed to have conversations with apparel decorators just like you and industry experts that can have an impact on your business. Today's conversation is about employee retention and growth. And as you can see, our guest is Zach Ellsworth, and he is the general manager for Decoration Fulfillment Center, which you guys hear us call DFC a lot. So Zach, thanks for taking time out of your Friday. It's going to be a fun one.
Thanks for having me. How long have you been doing this podcast, Kelly?
I don't know.
No?
I don't know. What month are we? September? I think I've been doing it probably 5 months now.
Okay. Well, I've been waiting for the invite for 5 months, so I appreciate you having me.
You set me up on that one.
I did.
Well, okay. So everybody, just in case they don't know who you are, tell us just a little bit about your background, saying you grew up in this world, and then of course, what it is you do as a general manager or for Group Stall.
Sure. So I started with stalls. I like to say I was cutting grass and cleaning toilets when I was 12 years old. My grandparents actually had the custodial maintenance contract for the facility here in Pennsylvania. So that's literally what I did from age 12 to 18 is work part-time with them. Coming out of high school, I tried the college route, found out it wasn't for me. So I just came to work full-time for stalls when I was 19 years old. Started in production here at DFC, running some cutting machines, laser cutters, knife cutters, vinyl cutters, those types of things. And then from there, went through a series of positions over the course of my career, and actually did leave stalls for a short time in my mid-20s. I went and worked for, I don't know if I'm allowed to say competitors' names on this podcast, but I went and worked for F&M Expressions for a few years in my 20s. And found out that I really missed the stalls culture and came back. So I've been here at DFC since about April of 2019. Again, a couple different positions along the way, but in the general manager role now, which basically means that I'm responsible for everybody here and making sure we meet customer demand and deliveries on decorating.
You got a lot on your plate, huh?
It gets busy, especially coming up in this time. You're catching me right before busy season kicks off for us here in October.
Well, good. This is just a jump start then.
Yep.
So with employee retention, I've noticed that that's been a pretty deep conversation in our industry at some of the events that, I've at least attended over the last probably 2 quarters. Mm-hmm. So clearly it is known that people are struggling with hiring or maintaining, keeping employees, or really if they invest in that employee, then there's a chance that they could jump ship, go to somebody else. So the concern of, I just spent my time and money being loyal to that employee, but then they left me. And it's been interesting to hear a lot of different standpoints. So I think the way that you've really kind of changed up DFC is a great topic and conversation. So when you started with when you took over DFC in 2019, what was one of the biggest things that you started to initiate or adjust really kind of during that COVID time?
Great question. So there was, I'll explain a little bit about our business, which I imagine mirrors a lot of decorating businesses, but we were and still kind of are very highly seasonal in our business. I said, busy season is coming up, but the DFC facility would do 40 to 50% of our annual revenue in that 3-month period of October to December. So the whole year was basically spent planning, how do we get through these 3 months and, make as much money while the sales are there as we can. So the approach that existed in the facility pre-2019 was working with temp agencies. That was the primary method that we would find employees. And sometimes we would bring them in under the pretense of, hey, we're eventually going to hire you. Sometimes it was, we just need you for the season, like whatever it was at that time. So one of the big changes that we made moving into 2020, right before COVID shut down, was trying to move away from bringing in a bunch of temps. So we would go from 50, 60 employees in the summer to needing 150 in the fall. So we were trying to ramp up somewhere between 70 to 100 employees over the course of a 3 or 4 month period. So as you can imagine, as probably decorators who are listening, like, how do you train that many people in that short of time to do all of the different decorating methods that we need to do? Because we were doing or are doing heat pressing, we're doing some embroidery, applique embroidery. At that time, we were doing screen printing. There was also direct to garment printing in our facility. Like, pretty much every decorating method besides cut and sew sublimation was happening inside the walls of DFC. And being able to train that many people in whatever department they were going to fall in was really, really difficult. So one of the changes that we made was really focusing on our training program and focusing on bringing in the right person the first time, rather than when we go with a temp agency, we would call them up on a Monday and say, hey, I need 20 people by Friday. They would throw 20 people at us, and we were lucky if 5 of them stuck, because one, they didn't know what they were walking into, right?
Yeah.
They didn't even know if they liked the work. They're just showing up for an assignment. 2, do you like the people? Do you get along with the culture? Is it a nice fit for you? And then 3, some of them, just didn't work out aptitude wise for what we were looking for. So we really made a concentrated switch on, which was multi-layered, because we also had to focus our sales team on the things we wanted to sell. So there was a big change that we made there as well, which allowed us to make that change in not needing to ramp up the staff the way we did, and focusing on more full-time, let's invest in the people type hires. And we want them to stick around for 2 to 5 years.
Cost wise, I mean, time is money, money is time, right? So even if you were bringing on temps, it's going to take time involved in training them. Then if you lose them, that's more time and bringing new people in. What are you looking at when you finally decide to just make the decision to hire full-time or part-time help permanently versus going along with temp?
Well, what we found, the real investment is in the time up front, because our management team would save time by just calling the temp agency and having folks show up, right? So we weren't interviewing, we were just seeing what we got. So the real investment from a facility perspective was in our manager's time in vetting people and making sure that we were trying to find the right ones. So we weren't investing our training time and dollars in folks who we didn't think were going to stick around, or we weren't going to be a great fit for the facility. So there was a lot of ramp up and teaching our leaders and managers how to make time to be able to invest in people before they're in the door, rather than just trying to manage the work that's on the floor that day. So it was, we have 3 to 4 layers of management in our facility. And we want our managers involved on the floor in what we call in the weeds about 25% of the time. Like, we want them hands-on, looking at quality, understanding what people's jobs are 25% of the time. We have a supervisor level below that. We want them hands-on 50% of the time in the weeds. Our team leads, we want 75% in the weeds with their people. And then, the folks who are doing the work 100% of the time. So it was figuring out a way to get those percentages right for our people, to invest the other 75% for the manager's time in finding the right people that they could populate their departments with.
When you have that many, not that many, because 4 really isn't when you're looking at the amount of time when somebody's spent on the floor working with production, looking at the products, going over quality. What was the time process to really understand, okay, we want the supervisor to be at 75% or the leader to be at 75, the supervisor to be 50, manager 25. How did you come to that percentage of time where somebody's actually in the grind of everything?
Honestly, we threw a couple numbers at the wall and said, does this make sense and does it work? Even my time as general manager of the facility, I devote 10 to 15% of my time to being on the floor every day to see what's happening, because of all the different decorating methods and of how much can happen in a short time frame, like the level of mistake that we can make. We just want to make sure we're invested in the quality. And then we believe that it always helps our people who are in the weeds 100% of the time to see their leadership team there with them, like working alongside them. So we threw some numbers at the wall, and there it's give or take. Some days, some seasons we do great. Some seasons, our managers, like, we're just overwhelmed and they're on the floor 75% of the time. It's just what it has to be. So there are more guidelines, and I can't say we actually have any like actual metrics or measurements against it, but it is something that we can come back to and say, hey, why did we lose sight of this 3 months out? And it's because the managers were on the floor 75% of the time instead of their 25%. So we just use it as a guideline to bring people's attention back to.
Well, it's a really good way to checks and balance as well from a quality standpoint, but then also building morale. I'm sure it's nice for those that are doing the production side of things to actually see the people in management, from all levels down there with them. And I think there's a lot of respect that also goes along with that. So how long did that whole process kind of take for you? Or are you still in the middle of it?
Well, I would say that process it's always ongoing. The switch from temp to permanent is pretty much done. And unfortunately, COVID helped us do that. So we were, the state of Pennsylvania closed down. Our business was deemed non-essential. So we were actually closed from March 18th, 2020 to May 18th, 2020. And then as we began to ramp back up, we took the opportunity to look at our sales. What do we have to do? What's really important to us? Those types of things. So we were able to start slowly bringing back the full-time staff that we had. And it took us about a year to get back to pre-COVID staffing levels, a year and a half. And now we are 100% the full-time. I want to say maybe currently we have 1 or 2 temporary employees in the building, and it's for very specific projects. It's like material handling, moving things, just an extra set of hands type thing, not actually a piece of equipment. So I would say we've done that. As far as like where our leadership teams spend the majority of their time, I'd say we're halfway into that. We have a little ways to go on keeping their focus where it needs to be for the business to be successsul.
I'm sure it's an ever evolving process as well with the way like technology changes from a, computer standpoint and then even equipment standpoint.
Yeah.
Who knows where we'll be in the next 2 years with what will be available. Now that you have switched from temp to those that are like truly officially part of the team, what are some of the things that you do or your team does from a supervisor and management level to really get to know who is on the floor running those pieces of equipment, to kind of understand, how everybody works, because everyone has a different personality and everybody handles criticism differently, learns differently. So what are some of the things that you guys do?
Oh, that's a fun question. And I feel like we probably, in full transparency, we probably don't do this as well as we would all like to yet. But we are big on our people tend to value communication at all levels. So, which I think most people probably do, but they not only want to hear from their managers, they want to hear from their managers just to get a perspective of what does the business look like. And we attempt to do a good job of tying together people's jobs and how it actually affects the success of the business, down to the heat press operator. Like, one of the things that we say in the facility, especially during our busy season, which is around holiday, is like, you are actually making Christmas dreams come true. Like, you're making somebody's Christmas present. Okay.
Yeah.
They're going to open on Christmas morning, which adds, I think it just helps to connect that there is actually value in what you are doing to somebody's life. Which sometimes when you're just standing at the heat press all day, you're not thinking that, right? Like, I just need to get my whatever number of impressions per day, depending on the work. So we do town hall meetings with upper management to the whole facility where we talk about big picture stuff, and we give not 100% transparency, but a lot of visibility into how we are doing financially. Like, we want them to know that what they are doing is actually affecting the bottom line. We're accomplishing our goals. And then our management team does team meetings pretty much. It's probably not a daily basis, but definitely on a weekly basis. They're touching base with their team. What do we need to accomplish this week? And then from a corporate perspective, which you probably know, Kelly, we have people take a predictive index test. And like, when they're onboarded, they take this test, and it gives us an idea of what their personality is like, what their motivations are, what's important to them. Are they a very detail oriented person, or are they a, hey, let's get running and we'll figure it out later type of person, which we have both, very
Yeah.
far ends of the spectrum here in our facility. But anytime we are communicating, we view it, especially from the upper management level, we view it as marketing. Like, we want to understand our audience.
Okay.
We want to understand what's important to them, because if we get up and talk about what our day looks like, they do not care. Like, at the end of the day, they don't care that I'm on a podcast today. They want to know, like, what is going to benefit them and what's important to them. So we try and focus communication really on how they're going to receive that and what benefit do they have from what we're saying.
That's a great perspective to look at it as marketing, because, if you were sending out an email or if you were contacting somebody, you want to know who you're talking to, what you're sending, the information that you're giving them.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at your employees from a marketing standpoint to really understand them is probably something that not a lot of people or businesses are doing, or if they are, they're doing it on a very minute, quantity, and it's not really making any type of impact for them.
Mm-hmm.
So you offer feedback, you offer the ability to get to understand like personalities, how people learn. What are you doing to help discover those like internal leaders or those that are really looking for more growth and development within the company versus just being complacent and showing up every day?
So we give opportunities for, I would say one main way we do that is give opportunities for feedback. We run competitions or challenges. Like, one thing that we do here at our facility is called an innovation challenge. And the innovation can be as like super small, or it can be this huge, big idea, but we just allow people to submit ideas. And the way that we frame the questions, or the way that we ask people to explain their ideas, is really not only to really understand the idea, but it's also a test of, did you think through this, and do you have the aptitude to think through and understand like what you're actually doing here? How do departments interplay with one another? Like, how do they connect? One of the biggest complaints we have.
I saw it. Hold on. We're going to have to like adjust this. Okay. Wow. Great. I'm frozen.
Good? Are we good? Okay. We'll cut that out in post.
Oh, let me see if I can get back. Uh-oh. Can you hear me at least?
Yeah, I can hear you. We can talk. Oh, there you are.
Never. I could hear it just ticking, and that mic was just getting closer and closer. So
yeah.
Now that I completely interrupted your speech, get back to what you were saying.
Let me think of what my thought was. What'd you ask me? Oh, I was talking about our innovation challenge.
Yeah.
And I don't know where I was going with it, but basically we try, like, when we hear a good idea and we're vetting it, the way that we approach questioning and explanations is just, I remember one of the biggest complaints we get from our folks is they don't know what the other departments are doing. So like, we have a process workflow, like things go from cutting to our warehouse, then to the production floor where it's getting put on a jersey or whatever it is that we're decorating. And if you ask the folks who are putting the stuff on the jersey, they're like, these people don't understand what my job is, because if they did, they wouldn't give us our stuff this way. You know, like, there's a better way to do it. Why don't they think ahead or whatever? So we also provide opportunities for people to volunteer for cross training in different departments. And we view initiative and critical thinking as kind of like the big two things as to what we want in our leadership.
So we actually have a question. And for those of you that are listening live, you can ask any questions down in the comments, and we'll make sure that either myself or Zach gets them answered. And then, of course, if you're tuning into this after it has been live, we'll do our best to get those questions answered as well. But for now, Ken has a question: if DFC for small decorators, or is it only geared towards larger companies?
So the way the business has run historically, we are an official licensee of the NFL, NBA, and NHL. and we are also a sub-licensee for Major League Baseball. So the majority of our customers are venues or leagues that are sending us jerseys. We do a small amount of fulfillment for smaller, what we would call promotional products distributors that are doing business with us. But our main customer base right now would be licensed goods. So if there is a project that is too big for a small decorator to take on, that's usually when we hear from them. So we function really as a contract decorator. We're not out actively soliciting business from
Sure.
schools, organizations, or anything like that. Like we're a contract decorator, and most of the small decorators that we help out are ones that, hey, I know I can handle a 100-piece order, or I know I can handle a 1,000-piece order, but I really want to go sell this 10,000-piece order. Can you help me with fulfillment? So that's majority of the business is licensed large customers, but we do help out other decorators when they need it as a contract decorator. Hope that answers the
So,
question.
guys, Carly has posted on each platform, so Facebook, and YouTube and LinkedIn, where you can find more about DFC. So if you have any questions, click on that link. It'll take you right there. And of course, you guys know that you can reach out to anybody at Stalls or Transfer Express, and we'll definitely get you in the right hands if you have further questions about really kind of connecting with DFC. So moving on in conversation, when you give other people, like the initiative to want to learn more, or they're asking for it, that's how you're identifying your leaders. What point do you get a little concerned that maybe you are training somebody to be a leader for a different company?
Like, are they going to leave me?
Yeah. Are they going to leave you?
Yeah, to be honest, we don't really think about that.
Good.
Yeah, it's really not a concern. We set a goal a long time ago, back 1920, when we were really trying to revamp what we were doing. And we said, if someone will come and work for us for 2 to 5 years in the current job market, we would be really happy with that. So although we have been extraordinarily lucky, we have, I don't want to miscount it, but of our 90 to 100 employees right now, 10 to 20% of them are 20-year plus vets that work here, have been here for a very long time. But when we're bringing on a new hire, we're looking for a 2 to 5 year, we're expecting a 2 to 5 year stay when we hire somebody on.
That's good. There's like I was saying, there's been a lot of conversation of, well, what if I invest in this employee and the next thing I know, they're going to find opportunity at the, another company. But I think there's also something to be said, it's kind of vice versa. If the opportunity isn't given to the person that is wanting more or treating that business like their own, then what do you expect them to do, right? If you're training them, train them to take it on as you've built it. So that's a big percentage of people that have been here 20 years plus for, 100 employees. And with each person having, their own personality, what they find is valuable, what is rewarding to them, how do you determine what to give a team? So is it more money? Is it events? Is it lunch? Is it time off? How are those rewarded so everyone feels like they're valued?
So we do all of the things that you said in some way, shape, or form. However, our employee engagement surveys give us a lot of feedback there. And then we do a lot of informal just survey asking for feedback, communication on what to do. So just a couple examples. We do give the company, like Stalls in general, provides an annual bonus based on company performance. So that is usually that usually goes over very well for everybody. We have done over the past couple of years a number of market rate analyses. Is that the plural of analysis? Is there a plural? I'm gonna go with it.
Analysis.
Market rate analyses. Sounds fancy. Let's go with it.
We'll run with it.
So we have done that, and we have raised our base wage in the community that we're in as well. Like, one of the other big changes when we went from temp to focusing on full time, we did a 25% increase across the board in everybody's base rate to attract more talent and to keep it. So that was important. But usually people aren't afraid to tell us what they want. And I think that's more of a, a culture of communication type thing. Like, you're not going to get in trouble for asking for what you want. You may not get it, but you're not going to get in trouble for asking for it. And we're pretty upfront with that. Like, we want your ideas, we want your requests. Can't promise we're going to do it, but we'll listen to you. And that has gone a long way in just hearing. So we'll do a Christmas dinner, a Thanksgiving dinner. We did a Pirates game last month, actually, to celebrate a record year that we had. So just like a little bonus there. But our people love money, they love food, and they love recognition, although they say they don't love recognition. We actually got surveys back that was like, well, we want to be recognized, but not in front of everybody. How do you want us to do that? I don't know how to do that.
They don't want their name going across a billboard. Yeah. They want you to come to them and say, hey, exactly. You're doing a wonderful job.
Exactly.
But
so
next time you just put their picture up there.
Yeah. So we do those types of things, but we really don't have a big problem with people telling us what they want. They just do.
Well, I think you've created that with communication. If people feel like you're communicating with them, then they're going to want to communicate with you. So it's nice that it's, given and received. So we actually have another question, and then we'll wrap up unless other questions come in. So Irene asks, how do you suggest finding first employees? My shop is small but growing fast. It's time to add employees, but I'm not sure what to expect. Training someone seems daunting, especially in a busy season.
Yes, Irene, that is an awesome question. So I would look at your business and what are the things that only you can do or that you are best at doing, and focus on those things and be willing to hire for the other stuff. If I read once in somebody's article that if somebody can do the job to 80% of your own ability, it's worth delegating it to them to free up for. So what I find is, if you have a heat press, that is typically, at least for us, the easiest thing to train on. And I'm not even saying that because we make the heat presses. We can put someone on a heat press and they can be productive, not at the level of a veteran, but they can be productive within a couple of days. Where if we're hiring for embroidery, we have 6 weeks before we can leave them by themselves, just with the complexity of the equipment and understanding the quality and all the stuff that goes into that. So that's what I would do. I would look at what are you best at, what can only you do, and then hire for the other positions. That's my suggestion.
That's a good answer. So that actually falls nicely into a piece of advice for someone struggling to hire, train, or retain team members, employees. So anything else you want to add to what you just said, which was pretty spot on?
I don't think so. I don't think there's anything I want to add. No, but one of the I think mindset wise, there was a change that happened for our management team. Like, as we continue to grow, as a manager, as a small business owner with employees, like, you have a significant responsibility to do what's best for the company, which is also doing what's best for your employees, because you want to keep them, you want to grow them, you want them to be successful. So realizing that what's best for the company and what's best for your employees aren't necessarily in conflict is a big mindset change that we had to have here, because it was always like, oh, we need to make more money. We need to make more money. That's what's best for the company at the expense of the employees. But it doesn't have to be that way. So thinking, how do these work in tandem or in parallel and play into one another? Because if the company does well, we want the employees to do well as well. And then one more thing I would suggest, I was told, I don't remember where I heard it, but humility and being humble, a really good definition of it. So being humble is not thinking less of yourself, but it's thinking about yourself less. And we just try it how does this decision affect everybody but me? Because especially if you look at stereotypical on television, in the movies, middle management, right? It's more about, how do I climb the corporate ladder?
Yeah.
But the reality is that if we're focused on that, we're probably not making the best decisions for the business or for the employees, because we're focused on ourselves. So I would suggest humility. as well.
I feel like we need that on a shirt.
I think we can do that.
I think we can do that. Next thing you know, we've got merch for the podcast.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, guys, before we wrap up, next week is Impressions in Fort Worth, Texas. And it starts next Wednesday. Excuse me, it starts next Thursday, but we are doing a pro day for Impressions on Wednesday. So if you want to attend that and you know that you're going to be attending Impressions, go sign up. All you have to do is register for one of their classes, and then you can attend pro day. But it's myself, Josh, Jenna, and Dave, and it will be for several hours, that type of education. But it's Wednesday, the day before Impressions start. So, Zach, thanks so much for taking your time. One other thing, because I like to show comments, too many supervisors, managers, owners are self-serving. So I think that's a really good little note for it. The links are in the comments to check out Pro Day. And of course, the links for DFC to check that out are in the comments as well. So thanks so much for tuning in, Zach. It was a pleasure. And I know we'll do it again.
All right. Thanks. Don't wait so long.
Okay, deal. Bye, guys.
See ya.